Hi guys, let's talk about using the properties of smart objects and a few little blending effects to create a portfolio mockup. All right, so let me show you how we can do that. So we're going to pull up this image to start off, and this here is just an old iPhone. And what I'd like to do is apply an image to the cover of the iPhone, so this could potentially go in my portfolio or be part of a marketing campaign pitch, some way of applying your artwork to a device. And so using a smart object is really helpful in a situation like this because it creates a template file that you can update later on and use over and over again while making some of the initial attributes in the beginning and saving yourself time in the process. So what we've got here again is that background image. And what I want to do is build a container where I'm going to put artwork that would then be resized and put on the cover. Now, in the old way, I could sit here for a long time. I could drop in my artwork. Let's give it a try. I could drop in my artwork, put it on the page, and then go through the process of distorting it to fit the cover. And that's definitely possible. I would use the transform feature, and I would drag the artwork kind of corner to corner and try to stretch it and fit it in place. But there are a few drawbacks to this method. So let's say I hit return and the distortion is left in place. Well, if I go back to edit transform, I'd have to then go through and kind of resize it. But I would need to do this for every single piece of art that I wanted to apply to the cover of an object like this. And that would take a lot of time. And if I can get this right the first time and then create, like I said, a little template, and then I won't have to do the distortion or the special effect every time. So here's what I mean. I'm going to go ahead and hit return. I'm going to cancel out of this, ditch that layer. And so instead of trying to do it with the image just yet, I'm going to use a smart object to create that container I was talking about. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and use my pen tool. And no, I'm sorry. I'm going to use the shape tool and go ahead and create the vector shape that I'm going to use to draw the object. All right, so I'm going to use a rectangle. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just drop it in about that size. And I'm going to go ahead and change the color so it's bright and obvious. Just pick, I don't know, I'll just pick light blue just so that it stands out. Okay, now this object is a smart object. It's a shape layer, which means it can be edited and it won't distort. So when I edit this, when I go through the work of aligning this so it fits on the cover of the phone, that process is also going to adapt to my objects as well. So what I want to do is under the layer menu, I'm going to go to convert to smart object under the layer menu. And this is going to make that container I was talking about. So I'm going to convert this to a smart object. Okay, you can kind of see subtly that the little icon changed in the corner of that rectangle. I'm going to go ahead and rename it. I'm going to call it screen. I guess short for iPhone screen. And now I'm going to transform it. I'm going to go edit and transform, distort. And I'm going to go ahead and align the corners with the cover of the iPhone. Now, some of you may be wondering, okay, why didn't I just resize or draw the screen shape using the pen tool? Or why didn't I just draw it in place in the right perspective from the beginning? Why am I going through the process of drawing the rectangle and then stretching and distorting it to match the screen? Well, the reason for that is that if I drew the shape of the container directly, like with the pen tool, corner to corner. It wouldn't include these shape distortions that I'm doing right now. And so that means that if, again, if I brought in my artwork, I'd still have to resize, scale, and twist it to fit. But instead, by making the smart object first and making it a rectangle, and then distorting it to fit the shape, Photoshop is basically going to preserve those distortions applied to that smart object. And so forevermore, anything I put inside that smart object is going to automatically resize. So the best way to demonstrate that is just to kind of show you. So I've adjusted that screen. Looks like it lines up pretty good. So now I'm going to edit this screen. So I'm going to double click on it. This is going to open up the smart object nested layer. So I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, open it. So here I have my little rectangle. And notice it's that same rectangle I drew. Now I'm going to go and place my artwork inside this shape. So I'm going to drop in my Leia Cloud City picture. Okay, and this is where it's going to get a little bit weird. I'm going to go ahead now and stretch this guy so that it fits this rectangle shape. Even though this rectangle shape is distorting the picture a little bit, I need to stretch this so it fits that initial rectangle shape that I drew. So I'm going to hit return. Okay, so now that dropped in artwork fits the rectangle shape. I'm going to close this tab and click Save, and watch what happens to my Photoshop file. Why did that happen? Well, because it, again, took the artwork and stretched it to fit and match the smart object that I already drew. All right, I'm temporarily going to hide this, and we're going to look at the screen here, and there are a couple other details that I want to adjust to make this really look better. First, if I wanted to get in really close, I can still adjust this and resize that shape if I wanted to fix some of those corners. But what I'm really going for is this reflection shape here. That's what's really going to sell it, as if this image is on the surface. So I need to recreate that. And I'm going to go ahead and do that with a separate layer. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to call this reflection. And I'm going to use the pen tool to draw a triangle. And for this situation, I just need the pen tool to be drawing me a path, not a shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this little white triangle here that you see that is the cast light on the surface of the iPhone. And there you see I drew that little triangle point by point. I'm going to go to the path palette, and I'm going to click on the make selection or load path as selection. That's the little icon down at the bottom of the path palette. Okay, and I'm going to go back to that reflection layer. Next, I'm going to paint a gradient inside that triangle. And what I want is it to go from white to transparent. So if you need to change something, you can come up here to the gradient palette and make sure that you select the gradient that goes foreground to transparent. So it happens that my foreground color is white. So if that doesn't look correct, you need to change that to white. Next, I'm going to drag and draw that white to transparent gradient inside this triangle. So I'm just going to click and drag down and drop that in. It's not very obvious what I did because it mimics what's underneath it, so you really don't see it that well. But you'll see it when I turn the screen back on. So notice how that came back into view. That the visibility of that shadow or that highlight came back into view. And if that reflection isn't quite right, I could adjust it. I could redraw it, enhance that gradient if I want to, or I can even lower the opacity and adjust it slightly. So that kind of includes that highlight back on top of the artwork that I created. Now, what if I want to update that screen to another piece of art? I would double click the smart object and then again place a new piece of art in there as a new layer, And as soon as it was updated and I saved it, it would then show up on the screen. So there you have it, a quick and easy way to make a template, a mock-up template that auto distorts your artwork to fit the right space. And you can set that up for all of your art to throw in your portfolio or some other kind of campaign graphic. All right, so hope that helps. See you next time.